Hello there. Welcome to the Empowered Marriage Podcast. My name is Helen Harrison. I'm a relationship and personal growth specialist, and it's me, you, and my mic. And we talk all about relationships. And, relationships are mighty important, aren't they? They're a very large part of your life. And sometimes we can have anguish and disharmony and disconnect. And so this podcast, I hope, creates some lightness, perhaps helps you understand yourself better, helps you understand the relationship you're in, and helps you understand your partner. And so this podcast has been going since 2019, so it's been a little while, and I want to have really honest, authentic conversations with you all around relationships, love, and marriage. So each episode is going to help you build closeness, because, in a relationship, you want to feel cherished, don't you? Sometimes relationships are messy, so it's all about building closeness, being able to communicate, have connection, and also I think a really big thing in relationships is feeling fulfilled. And a big one is fun, learning how to have fun. So when things aren't going well, you're not having a lot of fun. So today's podcast is 131, and why do you feel lonely even when you're together? Big topic. This is something that I've lived, and this is something that I hear very often. Helen, I feel really lonely in my relationship, and I have felt lonely for a long time. And this can be a year in. It does tend to be if you're in a more long-term relationship. I need to turn that phone on silent. Sorry about that. You'd think I'd prepare myself before I come into session, wouldn't you? Into the podcast. But anyway, I'm here, and I'm very focused on what I would like to talk about, because I think it's a really big topic. So what I see happen is there's an emotional disconnect, and it often can happen at particular stages. So it can happen at around the 12-month, 18-month mark. Now, this is where you've come out of the bubble of love, and it is a distinct change, because often we can have our partner on a bit of a pedestal. Life feels amazing. I don't know what life was like before I was in this relationship. And, grandiosity, and they're amazing. And what can begin to happen is, that's starting to irritate me. It's starting to annoy me, because what it is, you're coming out of that bubble of love. It's all about being able to see both sides of a relationship. And now you're starting to see the other side. Oh, my partner isn't as patient as I thought they were. Oh, that annoyed me, that tone, when they just spoke to me like that. So what can begin to happen is you can start to feel triggered, annoyed, agitated, frustrated. And unless you are up on relationship skills and understand how trauma plays out in your body, and when you're activated, when you're flooded, what's going on, you may start to pull away. And that can create an emotional distance. You might start to get a bit walled up, walled off, put a piece of concrete between you. That's a big stage. I see a big difference. Another one is when children come into the picture. It is such a transition for a couple when babies start coming in. So Esther Perel, she's a world-renowned sexologist. She talks around the 12-month mark is to let partner come back in, because what happens is when baby comes on board, particularly for the woman, it's such massive changes for her hormonally, for her body, for her own sense of identity, Where does she now fit in the world? Often she may take a little bit of time off. So her career, finance, it just so much changes. But you've got this little person, and often partner is to the side a little bit, where the partner was, particularly if this is your first child. Your partner is no longer number one, it is baby. And unless you as a couple have a strong foundation, you come from the adult parts of yourselves, you know how to work through when there is a disturbance between you. You know how to do conflict resolution. You know how to talk about what's going on in your inner world. That's a very big transitional place for couples. And so again, that's a time where you can begin to feel quite lonely, whether you're the male or the female in the relationship, particularly if we're talking about heterosexual partners and babies. Another big transition where you can start to feel lonely in a relationship is when perhaps there's night shift or one of you is working away. That can create some real emotional distance. Also, when kids trot off to school, when the kids turn into teenagers. Look, I think you get in the picture. The different life stages and the different transitions you go through, you can begin to feel lonely even when you are together, because what begins to happen is you stop emotionally reaching for each other. You may still live together, you parent together, you might even sleep in the same bed, but you are still quite distant, lonely. The emotional connection has slowly started to disappear. And so when you're in that place, you perhaps are fighting, you perhaps are getting angry, you're impatient, one or both of you may have a tone, you just get agitated easily. You think back to what it was like, where you're just in ebb and flow and it just worked. So in a relationship, and I harp on about this in most episodes of this podcast, is you have connection, disconnection, and repair. You may go through that 3 times at a dinner party or over a weekend. Or for some of you, you may be stuck in disconnect and you may have been in that for weeks. A healthy, fulfilled, cherished relationship are going to go through connection, disconnection, and repair. But it's how you both as individuals and how you as a couple relationally can move through when you are in disconnect. How do you repair it and come back into connection? And emotional disconnect occurs when you don't have the skill sets, when you do not know how to repair. Nobody teaches us this stuff. And we just often just wing it. We get into one of the most important decisions of your life when you say I do to someone, whether you're married or not married, you're in a committed relationship. But we often don't upskill. And we take some of our patterns from childhood, that they were the first most important relationships, and we take that into our adult intimate relationship today. And when we're under stress and there's different changes going on in the relationship, we go to the stress response in how we do life. Again, some of this I'm repeating because I think it is so important. When we come from stress, the prefrontal cortex of the brain goes offline. I know when I go offline, I can't retain information. I can get anxious. I can get impatient. My memory is shit. I just notice when the amygdala is on. That's the fight, flight, or freeze. And also fawn or fixer. Now, fawn is the pleaser. Now, you will go to one or a couple of those. We all do. You aren't going to be the one person on the planet who's totally enlightened and not get triggered, because you're not. You are going to get triggered. But if you are in a relationship and you feel lonely, you've got to start looking at the different pieces that make up that loneliness and that emotional disconnect. So 3 things, or three ideas that I'm going to talk into now. And for you, it's just bringing some curiosity around what happens for you. So, my number 1, if you are feeling lonely, even though you're in an intimate relationship and the intimacy isn't as strong as it used to be, number 1 is start turning towards each other again. So when a relationship is in disconnect, you're no longer connecting with each other. Perhaps the hellos and goodbyes when you used to leave in the morning, the kisses, the connection, the holding, that's no longer happening. Perhaps your walk and talk on the weekend, that's no longer happening. There could be so many little touches, little turning towards each other. I'm sure it's Gottman's, or is it Terry Real? Sorry, someone out there. Turning towards each other. I need 2 dolls, don't I? So this is you as a couple, and when you're not good, it's like, you do not turn towards each other. You turn away from each other. So what I'm proposing or encouraging or perhaps supporting you to do is start learning how to turn towards each other. And it's the daily, everyday moments. It's, would you like a cup of coffee? I'm making one. I'm watching a show at 7:00 tonight. Do you want to watch it with me? How about we go fishing to our favourite spot on the weekend? Would you like to do that? It can be as simple as turning towards your partner and going, I had a bit of a tough day today. Have you got time? I'd love to tell you about it. It's being vulnerable. It's bringing in some softness. It's bringing in some curiosity, because when you are feeling lonely, your walls are up. You've withdrawn and you are no longer turning towards each other. And look, I can hear you saying, yeah, I'm pissed off at my partner. I've got resentment. And I get that. And that will be something that needs to be looked at. But we call it the small bids for connection. Okay, this is a bid for connection. It's a movement towards. You're important to me. I am moving towards you. If you've got a mountain of resentment, you don't want to do this. And that'll be a discussion for another podcast. But what I'm saying is, if you are feeling lonely in your relationship and you're waiting for your partner to turn towards you, perhaps you could begin that and start that bid for connection. Look, you don't just get there and relationship is done. No, it's constant bids for connection. It's constant nurturing. It's constant. You're important, and we've got to constantly work at this. It's a bit like I was out watering early this morning, and I've got these beautiful lavender bushes, and they're all in bloom, apart from one in the corner, which gets a little bit too much shade. So it's not in bloom like the others. But I did for a moment ponder and think, these lavenders are very much like a relationship. It's not just sort of plant and forget. You have to fertilise it. You have to water it. At times it needs pruning. You got to look for bugs. It's exactly the same in your relationship. And so start turning towards each other exactly like I was doing with my lavender this morning. All right, my second way to perhaps start not feeling so lonely in your relationship, even when you are together, is stop taking your relationship out of your relationship. And what I mean by that is notice if you are talking to your friends, your family, your mum, your dad, a work colleague. When you start, actually, let me go back a step. Your relationship is sacred. It's like you've got a relationship house, and it's you and your partner. And it's about nurturing the relationship house. It's about nurturing you. And does everyone else know what you're feeling but not your partner? Because often it takes courage to share your inner world with your partner. And if you are talking to everybody else about your relationship but not your partner, that's not helpful. And actually, I pop into that equation. I'm out of a 30-year relationship and marriage, and I did exactly that. I did not have the courage to really share my inner world with my partner. You know, I take couples through a relationship grid, and we talk about the one up and the one down. Now, I was with a partner who at times was in the one up and walled off. And so I was not able to truly openly talk to him about how I felt. And so being the pleaser that I was, and being the boundaryless and the one down, I wouldn't share with him, but I'd share with my sisters, I would share with friends, I would share with a counsellor, but I wouldn't share with him. And I now know that to be fatal to a relationship ending. It's in a relationship, when it comes from wholeness, there is no one up person, one down. For me, it was to improve, grow my self-worth, my self-esteem, so I could start finding my voice to speak up and to really talk into that and to find the courage. My childhood, I didn't experience conflict. So for me, it was so foreign to be hearing any conflict or doing any conflict. I would avoid. I'm a conflict avoidant. I'm not now, because I've grown into that. But if you're listening to this and any of this is speaking to you, it's really, it's your role in the relationship. And so if you are taking your relationship out and talking to other people because you can't talk to your partner, that is something that you need to really question why you're doing that. And what role am I taking in the loneliness part? Because you're taking it all out of the relationship. You're not actually speaking to your partner. I could do a whole podcast on that, but I am going to move on. So the third point I would like to mention of why do you feel lonely even when you are together, and what can you do about that? Repair. So I just talked earlier about connection, disconnection, and repair. Loneliness often grows out of really unresolved hurt, resentment, and repeated patterns. And when you avoid what is actually happening and begin to have the conversations that allow you to repair and connect, then that will change. So repair, you have to repair what is sitting between you. And when you've got a big couple of suitcases full of resentment, if that doesn't get repaired, it doesn't matter what you do. That loneliness is going to get larger and larger. And this is where seek support, either reach out to me or reach out to a counsellor or a coach, so that you can learn how to repair. Because yes, you can learn relationship skills, but if you do not move that resentment, that that disharmony inside, all of the hurts, and again, this is your perspective. Your partner may not have any comprehension of what's going on for you. And working with someone, you can, with dialogue, start talking with support about what's going on internally. Because the place to get to, the outcome you want to get to, is daily. Okay, I've got a little bit of a hurt there or an annoyance, but you are able to have the dialogue because you know the repair skills about that. But if you have a backlog of hurt and a backlog of resentment, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to have the daily stuff because it's going to tap into all of that. You just can't bring up today's stuff because last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago is going to come up. So it's really important to get the skills. And through this podcast, I will constantly be talking about different skills, but just staying in this podcast time. I know I'm just about out of time, but I would really encourage you to begin noticing what's going on in your own body, what are your thoughts, and perhaps look at how you can start turning to your partner for a bid for connection, where you can stop taking your relationship outside of the relationship and start actually discussing your inner world with your partner. And thirdly, repair what is sitting between you. And sometimes it does take a professional if you've got a lot there. So if you're feeling lonely, it doesn't necessarily mean that your relationship is over. Absolutely not. It may mean you've stopped emotionally reaching for each other. And you can change that. And I hope by what I've discussed, that may give you a little bit of insight of where to start. But anyway, thanks so much for listening to the Empowered Marriage Podcast. I love bringing these podcasts to you. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who can benefit. I'd love to hear your feedback, leave your comments. Look, if you're looking for more resources, you could go onto my website, powerofchange.com.au. There's a lot on there. But anyway, until next time, remember that you are in charge of yourself, and you can help your relationship thrive. And I really want to give you hope in that, is just keep consistent little steps forward. And really hope that happens, that helps. And again, my name's Helen Harrison, and I love helping relationships thrive, one couple at a time. And until next time, have a fantastic week.